ladies and sinners. Welcome to another Tuesday evening edition of IE Vegas, the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I'm your host, Cale Henderson. We're back at it again. You guys can get at us on our Twitter forums at SinCity_IESR and at Cale_Henderson. That's my personal. You guys can get at us anytime. Talk about anything Vegas sports related, as we are always playing with house money on this show. You guys know how we roll. It's going to be a tough night, folks. I'm not going to lie to you. The last half of the show is going to be one that is very brutally honest. It's going to highlight some things I think are 100% wrong with our Las Vegas Raiders. But you guys know how we do it, man. We're always real. We're always honest, transparent about what we think is going on. It's an opinion. This is an opinion-based show. I don't have a lot of sources at this time. Hopefully as the show grows, I will grow sources, but at this time I can only tell you from what I see and how I feel about, the show or how I feel about the team and where it's at. And we're also going to talk about, the first half of the show, UNLV. They still have a chance to make a bowl game. Win the last two and you're probably in, which would be a big accomplishment for Coach Arroyo. And then we have to talk about the Golden Knights. The Golden Knights of the NHL, who I believe are the best team in the NHL right now. I know the Bruins are 14-2. The Devils are 13-3, just like the Golden Knights. I just don't think anybody is as dangerous as the Golden Knights. The Bruins may have a better record by one game, by one win, but I just don't think any team is as dangerous as the Golden Knights are this year. And we'll touch base on that when we get back here at the start of the show, the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Welcome back again to another edition of IE Vegas, the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I'm your host, Cale Henderson, and we're back at it again, folks. Another Tuesday evening edition, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. You guys know how we roll. Listen, we roll the dice every show. It's how we don't sugarcoat anything. Welcome, Taryn Rodriguez. Welcome, Adam Karnick, the two best teammates in all of IE Sports Radio. Thank you guys so much for listening in tonight. We're going to kick the show off tonight by tipping a hat to our platform, IE Sports Radio. For the last 8 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. All the while, we continue to be by the fans, for the fans, and with your help, we are ready to take the next step. When you go to our website, iesportsradio.com, you'll see our Patreon link with 5 different tiers. The first one starting at just $5 a month. This donation gets you a shout-outs on all 32 of our shows. Higher tiers include IE Sports Radio merchandise, access to our podcasting university, and even a chance to be featured on a segment of our flagship show, The Defining Moment. Thank you all very much for continuing to make IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports. With that said, we got to jump right into the news. UNLV football right now is they're on a decline. It is what it is, guys. They had a good start to the season. Injuries kind of crept up on them. They're 4-6 overall. They could not get the win over Fresno State, who has now taken basically a first-place lead in the Mountain West division of the Mountain West Conference with that victory. Listen, it was a close game. The last 2 games have been very close. I think UNLV is just right there, man. And it's still possible. Being a bowl game or being a bowl contender, a team playing in a bowl game is still possible for this team. If UNLV beats Hawaii and Nevada, essentially the 2 worst teams, arguably the 2 worst teams next to New Mexico and Colorado State, the 2 worst teams in this specific division, you're 6-6. Coach Arroyo 6-6 in his basically 3rd year as the head coach for the UNLV Rebels, and you're looking at a possible bowl win. Now, granted, a bowl game would have to reach out to UNLV and say, hey, would you like to play? for which I don't believe Coach Arroyo would say no to that by any means, but a team's got to do it. And if that's the case, I hope it's a decent bowl game. It's at a good venue, and it's at a place where Las Vegas fans can travel. Um, UNLV is a team with a ton of potential. They're on the rise, and the best way to really kick off momentum going into the offseason is simple: make a bowl game. Show that you're making progress under Coach Arroyo. I do believe, though, if you lose either one of these next two games, it's a failure of a season. I truly believe that. Although we saw improvements, although we've seen improvements, although we've seen progress, especially from the recruiting front, facilities have gotten better. They have their own wing at Allegiant Stadium. I mean, this is a team that has all the potential in the world to be a big-time contender in the Mountain West with all of its amenities. You have to take care of business on the field. And right now, we're just not seeing, Doug Brumfield, Ricky White, Aiden Robbins. We need them to take over games. Like, that's a fact. This needs to happen. I think the defense has been pretty solid. The offense really needs to convert scores, man. Make it happen. If they do that, you're looking at a different outcome for most of these games. But the good news is they have a favorable schedule. This season is not over. You are playing Hawaii. In Hawaii. By the way, how fun would that be? How fun would that be to be able to travel to Hawaii and play a football game in Hawaii, on Hawaiian shores? That would be an absolute blast. I think the Mountain West Conference has a lot of really cool amenities that Power 5 can't really talk about. And the fact that you have the ability to legitimately go to Hawaii, play in their stadium. Yes, it's a bit run down. It's something that needs to be better upkept. Maybe it's something that Hawaii could focus on, and we could talk about that, in a different show when we do a bigger focus in the Mountain West. But how cool would that be, being a player in college football and you basically get a all expenses paid trip to Hawaii to play football? Adam Karnick says going to Hawaii would be amazing. Dude, have you seen our skin tone? We would pay for it. Okay? We'd be looking like lobsters, like native lobsters out there. Hawaiian native lobsters out there if we spent 3 hours in the sun. I don't know if there's SPF 1000. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, Adam, I hear you. Going to Hawaii alone would be amazing. Playing a football game would be dope. I mean, it'd be so cool. Absolutely awesome. Just palm trees in the background, that Hawaiian breeze, smell of the water, the sea, while you're playing a game of football. I don't know if you could ask for anything better. Seriously. Adam says, LOL, I'm dying. For real, dude. We'd be out there. We'd be so sore, so hurting. The only thing we could move is our hands, and they'd look like pincers by the time because all we could do is open, shut, open, shut. We'd be struggling, man. We'd be on that struggle bus. SPF 1000 isn't real for these Chicago Midwesterners, okay? They don't have enough SPF for us. It's no joke. Gotta love it, man. Love your attitude, man. Thank you so much for your humor. UNLV's a team that's got a ton of potential, but they have to finish. It's a simple thing, something you say youth kids, you say to high school kids. If you want to get somewhere, you have to earn it. You have to finish the job. The easiest thing for them to do is beat these two teams that are absolutely awful. Hawaii and Nevada are the worst teams in the Mountain West. Finish them. If you finish them, you're 6-6, and you have a chance for a bowl game. It is not as good as what it would have been at 7-5, but you still have an opportunity. Brumfield, Robbins, they have to take over. They are big-time players. Your quarterback, your running back, guys who help open up the offense. Ricky White really needs to step up. These guys at wide receiver, these guys have to do a better job of converting first downs and scoring in the red zone. If they do that, this is a team that could very easily go on a run. Imagine if they finish their last 3 games, right? Win-win against Hawaii, Nevada, and get a win in a bowl game. That'd be awesome. It'd be a momentum builder for Coach Arroyo. It's something they truly need for this team. Absolutely need for this team. We're going to go to a quick break. When we get back, we're going to talk about the Las Vegas Golden Knights. Even though they fell recently, had a tough game, blew a lead, I still believe, and I firmly believe, and maybe Adam may think I'm wrong, I think the Golden Knights are the most dangerous team in the NHL right now. Bruins look great, but the Golden Knights are scary, scary good. Literally going on a 9-game win streak before dropping that last game. When we get back, we'll further discuss that here on the Sin City Sports Show presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Damn! Green team! Set! Hey!
What's going on, football fans? This is me, your boy Larry B, inviting you to join myself, Colin Reynolds, Mike Pat, and John Felipe for one of the most electrifying football shows you have ever heard. 3 and Out, right here at IE Sports Radio. Recap of the week before, a preview of what's to come, and of course, 3 hardcore head-to-head prime-time face-offs each week. You don't want to miss it.
What's happening, sports fans? Are you a fan of Southern California sports? Are you looking for a show hotter than a hot summer day in California? Then look no further than the SoCal Supreme Sports Show, where I talk about all things Southern California sports. That's right, all sports teams from Southern California. From the hard-hitting tackles of the NFL, to the killer crossovers and big three-pointers of the NBA and WNBA, to the grand slams of the MLB, to the bone-chilling goals of the NHL, and to the booming kicks of the MLS, the SoCal Supreme Sports Show has it all for you. Oh, and let us not forget about the college sports as well. So join me, Taryn Rodriguez, every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
College football, and do you want to hear a college football show dedicated to all that is college football, including junior college and the CCCAA and the NJCAA, the NAIA, and the NCAA, including Division III, Division II, Division I AA in the FCS, and Division I Single A in the FBS. Well then, look no further. Join myself, Larry B., and my colleagues, Mr. H-Town Blake Henley, and Mr. Christian Espinoza, each week during the college football season for the latest in college football on 3 and Out College Edition, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Ladies and sinners, welcome back again. Another IE Vegas, another edition of IE Vegas, the Sin City Sports Show presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I'm your host, Cale Henderson. We're back at it again, folks. Always booming, always playing with house money. Unless we're talking about the Raiders, we're always playing with house money. and we're going straight into the Golden Knights, who are playing with probably more house money right now than anybody in the NHL. Just got done talking about UNLV football, win the last two, and you're probably in a bowl game, which would be a big-time accomplishment for Coach Arroyo. I think Coach Marcus Arroyo needs this. It would be huge. We've talked about it for weeks. I feel like I'm on a broken record. This is huge for UNLV if they want to get better. Win the games. They need big games from these three guys. I'll say it like this. I'll say these five guys, okay? I'm going to point to the offense because they could tear this Hawaii defense up for sure. Doug Brumfield needs to be that Doug Brumfield we saw at the beginning of the season. All right? 65% completion, over 1,600 yards passing, 9 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Not super impressive, but he does have 200 yards rushing on the season and 6 touchdowns as well. We need a big game from Doug Brumfield. Aiden Robbins is your top running back, 850 yards on the season. He could easily eclipse 1,000 yards with an efficient couple games. 4.9 yards a carry, 9 touchdowns on the season. I would imagine that's going to grow. Again, these guys are getting healthy at the right time, so let's hope that continues. And then most importantly, Ricky White, Kyle Williams, and Nick Williams, the three receivers that really mean the most to this football team, all averaging more than 12 yards a reception. 4 touchdowns, and 1 touchdown. But the big thing is the reception yards, guys. There are a number of people. There are 6 receivers on this football team that average more than 11 yards per reception. This UNLV team can be lights out. This UNLV team can do things offensively that a lot of teams cannot. And that's what UNLV needs the next 2 games. Do it to Hawaii. Take care of business. They're not very good teams. Take care of business with Hawaii and Nevada. You're fine. You're likely in a bowl game. I don't see why they wouldn't ask a Vegas team to go to a bowl game. I think that'd be a blast. And then, again, we got to touch base on it. Listen, playing in Hawaii this weekend, what a blast that would be for the athletes. Awesome. All expenses paid trip to play football in Hawaii. Sign me up. It's not the Pro Bowl by any means, but sign me up, right? The Golden Knights are on a hot streak, man. Actually, it was just, technically it was just snap recently, but they were on a 9-game win streak. Started out the season 13-2. They're 13-3 after the loss. They do play a game. They do play a game against the Sharks tonight. That will begin basically. Respectfully, that'll begin basically any minute now. 9 p.m. today, 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, which is, it should be 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time because it's a Golden Knights game. They should start, any minute now. That we'll be able to give updates. The San Jose Sharks are one of the worst teams in the league. I have no fear that they're going to take care of business with this team. The next 2 games after that, however, Coyotes, they're decent. They're not as bad as they used to be. And then Oilers with Connor McDavid, the best hockey player probably in the world right now. That'll be a tough matchup, but they've beaten them before. I think the next 5 games are very favorable. They could go on 6 games. 6 games are very favorable. They could go on another run, which would be fantastic. I take it back. The Canucks are basically trash as well. So you're looking at the Sharks, Coyotes, Oilers, Canucks, Senators, Kraken, who are still a team building, and the Canucks. When you look at those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games, these are all very winnable games. Go 6-1 down that stretch. You continue to do that throughout the season. I still think you're looking at a possible President's Cup trophy team. And just for you folks out there that are not quite huge NHL fans, President's Trophy is the winningest team in the regular season. Doesn't mean much if you don't win a title, if we're being honest, right? It's cool to have, but I almost think sometimes it's a slap in the face. And maybe Adam can correct me, but sometimes it feels like that President's Trophy, feels like it's a curse. I don't know too many teams that win the President's Trophy and win the title same year. It's almost a curse, man. You almost don't want to have the best record in hockey, right? Just get that number 1 seed and be happy. And maybe I'm wrong, but Adam chimes in. He said, because I basically said I think the Knights are one of the most dangerous teams in the league, maybe the most dangerous. He said the Knights are up there. They should be able to start a fresh winning streak tonight against the Sharks. 100% agree. Canucks are bad, but they've gone on a weird little win streak lately. I mean, that's the thing with the NHL. With pro sports, it's parody, man. It's almost, when do these rich guys really want to step up and start playing whatever their sport is? You see that in baseball, football, like the worst team in the NFL can beat a really good team at any time. Like the Washington Commanders last night. They're not a terrible team, but I mean, come on, did we really think they were going to beat the Eagles? They have an excellent defensive line, but I mean, come on, man. It's parity. That's the point of pro sports. Adam comes in and says, "Oh no, I 100% agree. You win that President's Trophy, and you've got a huge target on your back for the playoffs." 100%, man. I honestly, I'd really love to know the statistic, and maybe that's something you can provide on your next show, your next hockey show, or maybe even tonight if you have a chance while you're listening to the show. How many President's Trophy teams in the NHL have actually won a Stanley Cup? That would be an interesting statistic that I'd like to know. I feel like sometimes it's a curse. You know, being the winningest team in the NHL during the regular season obviously means nothing if you don't win the big one. We've said it before. We'll say it again. It feels like it's a curse. 100% feels a curse. I think the Lightning might be the last team to do it. Was that a couple years ago? Other than that, man, I just don't see any point to it at all. Just get that number 1, number 2 seeds, sit fat, sit your players the last couple games of the season, get rested up, and get ready for a grueling playoffs. And by the way, folks, I don't know if there's really anything better other than the NFL playoffs. You guys have seen how hyped that gets, 1-score games all the way through. That's how it should be. I don't know if anything gets better than NHL playoffs. NHL playoffs are a ton of fun to watch. The only thing I do not like is the overtime rules. I despise the overtime rules. I have no idea why the NHL thinks, oh, let's go 4 overtimes if they don't score. Do 1 and then do a shootout. The shootout would mean way more in the playoffs. Those overtime rules suck. I'll say it like this. Do 1 or 2 overtimes, right? And then do a shootout. Do not have those guys out there at 3 or 4 overtimes. That's ridiculous. Sooner or later, you got to think about the long-term health, especially if it's only game 2 of the series. Get those guys out of there. Get them in a shootout. That is way more fun to watch anyway. Shootouts are a blast. That's one of my favorite things to watch in hockey. Shootouts. Especially when it's between 2 good teams that can score. They have excellent scores. Oh, man, nothing better than watching a shootout in hockey to decide a game. It is so exciting. I remember, when the Ducks were on their run, they used to have a ton of them. Corey Perry, Getzlaf, Ryan Kessler. All kinds of really good players on that team that Bob Murray actually put together. Believe it or not, Bob Murray had good teams put together at one point. I remember watching those teams play in shootouts, and it was a blast, man. Shootouts they just hit different in hockey. They mean more. It's just a grittier sport. There's something about it. Yes, I'm being passionate about it. I think NHL is probably the most underrated pro sport in America right now. Most underrated. I have no idea how soccer is picking up so much steam. Maybe it's because kids these days are pretty soft and they don't want a huge contact sport anymore. So they play baseball and soccer more often than not. Those are the type of games for just not very aggressive kids. And then those sports, I'll say this, when those sports get aggressive kids that are athletically gifted, they rise to the top. But otherwise, you get, out of every 100 kids, you get 1 or 2 that are decent. The rest of them are just pansies that mommy and daddy, kind of bottle feed until they're 20. I have a bad taste in my mouth for soccer and baseball. I think both of those sports are just, I don't know. I get it. It takes skill to do them, but I don't think the mentality is the same. It is what it is. My buddy who's an avid listener is going to skewer me for saying this stuff, but I can tell you right now, man, he wasn't a gridiron guy. He was a baseball guy, and I wasn't going to be a baseball guy because I was a gridiron guy. Baseball would have been boring to me. Not that, if I'd had some training, I probably would have been fine. But baseball would have been boring to me. Football, however, was something that always fascinated me. Hockey fascinated me. Boxing, wrestling, those types of things where like you literally have to be the most physical, meanest dude on the mat or the most technically savvy. Those types of sports have always been something that I think are just absolutely admirable. If you can do that, if you have the mentality, maybe you have to be crazy to do it too. I think those sports are second to none. And hockey is a sport that I get. It's a Canadian sport, but it does not get enough love in America. I think it's fantastic. It's fun to watch. It's almost impossible to follow the entire way through sometimes because of how fast those players move, how fast the puck moves, all the different plays. I would hate to be a film crew. I know a lot of the times you have cameras with sensors that can follow the puck really well now, but still, imagine being a camera crew and just going back and forth. That would be nutty, okay? I know I'm all over the place when it comes to hockey, but I'm just saying. It's a fun sport. It's a blast. You guys got to start watching it, especially Golden Knights hockey. They are on a roll. They're kicking ass. They're taking names, and there's no reason at all they couldn't beat up on the Sharks tonight. First period's underway, 9:29 left, 0-0, and let's hope that the Golden Knights can start another win streak here, because the next 7 games, as we've said, are very winnable games. Jack Eichel's off to an excellent start. Jack Eichel's off to an excellent start. Phil Kessel is still the Iron Man of hockey right now. William Karlsson, Mark Stone, Riley Smith, all off to great starts. I'll tell you somebody who I think is really on the up and coming here. Shea Theodore, the former Duck, I think as a defenseman he's looked very good. He's looked very mobile. He's been all around the puck. I think that's somebody who is a dark horse for one of the defensive players of the year. He probably won't get it, but he could very easily be in that running for that. Alex Pietrangelo, he's had an excellent year so far too, and Jonathan Marshall. Listen, this is a team that is stacked. We've had no secrets on that. No secrets on that. This is a team that's stacked. When they're healthy, they're dangerous, and they're showing it. After a 13-3 start, they're probably about to bury the Sharks tonight. Let's get after it. Taryn Rodriguez chimes in. The President's Cup is a blessing and a curse. Look at what the Kings did back in 2012. Sorry, I had to bring that up. You don't have to bring that up. You don't have to be sorry about that. That is what it is, man, for sure. Yeah. I want to say, it was the Ducks. They won the President's Cup, and the Kings beat them. Boy, that was the division that year, too. The Pacific Division was just nasty, and the Kings were a good team. They beat the Ducks in Game 7 of the Western Conference Finals. That was one of many that you saw under Bruce Boudreau. I'm still a believer the Ducks should have never fired him. They just loved that guy. Yes, he didn't get it done. I don't think that was entirely him. He coaches the roster he has, man. And you started to see that roster age. And some of the pieces that were brought in that were aging, they had no move clauses, no trade clauses basically. It was a tough position for Bruce Boudreau and the coach after him. I don't know. It's been tough in Anaheim, but it has not been tough in Golden Knights. You could say last year was a tough season. It's the only season they haven't made the playoffs, and it was due to injury. So they'll continue to do what they're doing. We'll give you guys live updates as the show goes on. You guys know how we do, and we'll give you guys updates on Twitter once we know what's happening with the results of this game. But again, very dangerous team, lots of fun. Taryn says, shootouts make the games end faster. Though it's painful when your team loses, then it becomes the ickiest way to lose a game, especially in the playoffs. I don't think so, man. When you have that, I'll say it like this. I get where you're coming from. That sounds like a player perspective. It's not a fan perspective. If I'm a fan, I don't want to stay up until 2 a.m. watching an overtime game, which I did on a couple times watching the Ducks and the Blackhawks play. Right? That's ridiculous. Also, you have to think about the long-term health of these hockey players. Yes, it's the team's fault for not finishing the game within the first 3 periods, but play 2 overtimes, get that shootout in. It is what it is. It has to be an understanding across the league that that's how these games are going to be decided, and you'll stomach it. It is what it is. But from a fan's perspective, dude, I'm not trying to be up till 3 a.m. watching hockey. No offense. I love the game, but 3 a.m. is a long time. That's a 5-hour game. I've seen it. It happens. We have to think about the health of the players. I 100% believe shootouts are the best way to go. Hockey purists don't like shootouts because it's not hockey. I love them because they're entertaining as hell. There's that thing, man, from the fans' perspective. Listen, the NHL isn't the most popular sport. I will say this. When they went through I think it was like 2 lockouts in 7 years, I truly believe they lost a lot of popularity because they missed out on TV contracts that they couldn't renew. They used to be on TV all the time. Right? Maybe they're on TV now more than what they were then because of the rate at which they can schedule their games and finesse things. But before then, the NHL was competitive with the bigger sports leagues, honestly. And I think hockey purists need to shut the hell up. They're almost as bad as baseball purists, right? Those types of things, those minute things like a shootout or 4 overtimes are what's killing the sport. And I'm just saying it from a fan's perspective. You have to keep them locked in. Shootouts are the way to do it. It's player safety and fan engagement. Go to shootouts, man. And if you want to make it even more entertaining, I don't know. Make it best of 10 or what. You guys get what I'm saying. advance it. Adam Karnick chimes in. ESPN/TNT has helped them explode last year. So many games on ESPN Plus now. Correct. But remember, Adam, think about it. Before ESPN Plus, there was not a lot of game exposure. It was a lot of NBC Sports, or you had to buy that NHL Center Ice. Even before that, we saw a lot of NBC games. We saw a lot of games on regular programming. I remember watching games of Sidney Crosby and stuff all the time before those lockouts happened. I really think it affected their revenue. I really think it affected their TV contracts, which affected exposure. It also, in my opinion, allowed the NBA to really jump ahead again, because the NBA didn't have lockouts like that. The NBA took advantage of it. They grabbed as many signatures from the big companies as possible because they needed to fill airtime with sports. The NFL is another one that they're licensed to print money. I think they took advantage of it. And you just have to look at it sometimes, not just from a hockey purist perspective, because, again, those purists in sports can really screw the game. Those traditionalists not willing to make changes can really screw the game. And that's the last thing you want for the NHL, and that's the last thing I want for the NHL. I think it's so entertaining. I think it's a lot of fun to watch. Even when my team is bad, you can tell that, hockey is getting better and better, and it's just like any other sport. The developmental leagues are really advancing. I'm happy that ESPN, TNT, ESPN Plus, they've all stepped up, because it's made a huge difference for the NHL, and it's more progression for the sport for sure. But yes, again, overtime rules have to change. Get rid of the go to 5 overtimes if you have to. Stupid. Do 1 or 2, get a shootout in. It's a blast. It's a ton of fun. It has the fans on the edge of the seat. It's entertaining as hell, and it gets the players off the ice faster than having them go 4 overtimes. 100% agree with that. We're going to go to a quick break, get a couple drops in for my teammates here at IE Sports Radio. When we get back, we're going to chime in. We're going to go in hard on the Raiders. It is what it is, folks. Las Vegas. I love the team. Trust me, I love the team more than most people do. It's been something that's sentimental to me. I've told you guys my story with my connection with my father. The Las Vegas Raiders mean the world to me. The Oakland Raiders would have meant the world to me if they stayed in Oakland. They're a team that I really obsess about, and for good reason. But it's hard, man. It's heartbreaking, and we're going to get into those details when we get back here on the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Sports fans, do you like teams that are tough, cities that are tougher, and fan bases that are passionate about their teams? How about teams that are historic and stadiums that are iconic? Then you belong in Chicago, and you need to check out Chi-Town Weekly. Join me, Adam Kernan, every week as we keep up with all things Chicago sports. Bears, Bulls, Blackhawks, Cubs, White Sox. We'll cover them all, plus more. The Windy City is always buzzing, and we'll keep you up on all the big games and major stories. So tune in to Chi-Town Weekly every week right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Everybody, this is Taryn Rodriguez. Are you a fan of volleyball? Are you a fan of Thunder Spikes? Then I have the show for you, Set Point, where I cover NCAA men's and women's volleyball, high school boys and girls volleyball, beach volleyball, and even professional volleyball. Catch the action every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Welcome back from break, folks. The IE Vegas, the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I'm your host, Cale Henderson. Again, back at it. Another Tuesday evening edition, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. That's what we do, folks. We love our Las Vegas sports. The fastest growing market in America, I swear. Fastest growing sports market in America. Quote me. For real. In the next couple years, man, there's going to be a couple more teams here probably, and it's going to be a blast. You guys know how it is. Golden Knights tied up at 0. 3:54 left in the first period. We'll keep you guys updated as the show goes on. As promised, you know, we're going to get into the meat and potatoes of our show, which is always the Las Vegas Raiders. And look, it's a dumpster fire. It's an absolute dumpster fire. It's a failure. There's so many things you could say about what's going on in Las Vegas, and I can't sugarcoat it whatsoever. And I don't think you could say enough about what's going on. I've been hearing a lot of things, been reading a lot of tweets. Gentleman by the name of I'm Here for This. He's out there saying, you know, Gruden did the same type of stuff. No, Gruden did not. The situation with McDaniels and Gruden are far different situations. Gruden showed up. He said, man, we are cap strapped. We are loaded with contracts that are not favorable. We literally have no future outcome that looks great. We're going to sell our two best players and try and rebuild a team. And he did that. They had a bad team in 2018. Nobody can say otherwise. Honestly, Derek Carr played a lot like he's playing this year in his first year in Gruden's system, and it's not surprising. Honestly, realistically, guys, I thought Derek Carr would go off, and we'll get into more details about that, but it's the first year in this system. Patience are really running thin with Raiders fans, and I don't see why. The Gruden regime and the Josh McDaniels regime are totally different animals. Let's just tackle that now. Gruden was rebuilding a team. Josh McDaniels had us all thinking that this was a win-now team. Gruden did not have a playoff caliber team. He took over a 6-10 team that a locker room that fell out of favor with Jack Del Rio. That's why the change was made. Gruden found interest. He kind of said, "Oh man, I think I want to coach again." Mark jumped at the opportunity that 10 other teams or 20 other teams over the last, over those 10 years that he was at ESPN tried to do. He's a Super Bowl winning coach. Of course you're going to give him a shot. And honestly, this team was making progress, but he had to make some tough decisions to start. Weren't very favorable with the fan base. Got rid of Khalil Mack. Got rid of Amari Cooper, two very good players. He bought into Derek Carr, and he improved Derek Carr every single year. But it was not a lie. He told us from the very beginning, we're going to rebuild this team and make them better. And by year 4, they were 10-17 without him. I think with Gruden on the sideline, they were probably 11-6, 12-5 team last year before the emails were released. And again, witch hunt. He doesn't deserve to be on the sideline. He said some really heinous things in those emails. But let's be honest, the NFL, they hunted him. They made it happen. And they're probably going to lose their lawsuit against him because so far all the momentum is on John Gruden's side. Turn to Josh McDaniels. Josh McDaniels inherited a playoff team. They traded for the number 1 wide receiver in the NFL, one or two draft picks. Okay? You went out and you got Chandler Jones, believing he still had something in the tank. Someone who's been non-existent. All of Raider Nation, including all of the NFL, was led to believe that the Raiders were going to try this year. And I think they fell flat on their face. Truthfully, I think they tried. But I think they crapped the bed. And it all starts, and I'm going to say it like this. It's a broken record because I said it last week, and I'm going to give you guys all the evidence. You guys hear me out. Get after me. I don't care. You guys know my Twitter, at Cale_Henderson, at SinCity_ISR. Mark Davis is the main problem. 100% the main problem. I think he wants to win games. I don't think he has a damn clue how to do it. Okay? Let's start with this. His first hire ever was Reggie McKenzie, and then he signed off on bringing in Dennis Allen when Dennis Allen was a young guy. It was horrible. I think they were 3-13 or 4-12. They put themselves in position to grab Khalil Mack and Derek Carr, right? 4 games into that second season, he got fired because it was so bad. It was so abysmal. You have Tony Sperano check in, right? Horrible. Dennis Allen was awful. Reggie McKenzie did a pretty good job. He did a lot of great things with our salary cap, freed up a ton of space and put the Raiders in position to win long term. Orchestrated a roster that put him in a winning position in 2016. So Reggie McKenzie, it's actually kind of a thumbs up, even though he did a really bad job after Khalil Mack and Derek Carr after that draft class, he did a really bad job, right? But overall, you got to give him a thumbs up. Jack Del Rio steps in. He's probably the winningest coach a Raiders fan base has seen in 10 years. Straight up. Winningest coach. Went 7-9 his first season, 7-9 his first season, 12-4 his second season, and 6-10 his third season. He was canned. Regardless, it was a coach that loved the locker room. Locker room loved him. Blackjack Del Rio was his nickname. He was actually kind of a thumbs up. He was a thumbs up. But he didn't do what he had to do with a roster that was actually really talented in 2017, and it was a bummer. Crap happens, man. You had a quarterback who had his leg snapped the year before, who was on MVP caliber. He was on an MVP caliber season, and honestly, I don't know if there was too many teams other than the Chiefs that could have beaten the Raiders that whole year, because they were on fire, man. Okay, 6-10 wasn't good enough. Everyone knew it. And honestly, I thought Jack Del Rio deserved another couple more seasons. It just so happened that John Gruden wanted to coach. And Mark Davis has always loved John Gruden. They've been great friends. So he brings in John Gruden. I still give him a thumbs up because you've seen development with the quarterback. You saw a team that was getting better. Even with crap draft picks, they were still getting results from these players. Maybe not the results Raider Nation wants because, again, they're a passionate fan base. But still, you saw improvement every single year. From 4-12, right, to 7-9, to 8-8. This last season they went 10-7, and Gruden deserves credit for that, not just Rich Bisaccia. Gruden put this whole thing together. It was his offense, his scheme, right? He had the wherewithal to fire Paul Gunther, bring in Gus Bradley, who made massive improvements to the defense, okay? Gruden was making strides. And if it wasn't for the email situation, we'd probably still have him this year, okay? And we'd probably be winning. I firmly believe that with Gruden at the helm, we're 7-2 or 6-3 instead of 2-7. Carr's in his fifth year in this offense. The problem I see though with that is we probably don't have Devontae Adams because I do not believe Mike Mayock would have had the fortitude to go after that trade. I think Dave Ziegler did a great job of fortifying this team and putting in playmakers on offense. Yes, the defense is horrible. We know that, but I think that was going to be addressed the next couple off seasons to make this team a really Super Bowl caliber winning team. Fast forward to this year. McDaniels has done nothing with the talent he's had. He looks lost. You guys look at my Twitter, I've said it. Okay? This, pardon me. The Erhardt-Perkins system is believed to be a very tough system to learn. But the idea is that you can run concepts, passing concepts, running concepts from 20 different formations and nothing really changes. That's the idea of it. It was so efficient for so many years, even in the New England days, that, listen, Josh McDaniels earned this contract with the Raiders. But he's not earning it right now. The team is 2-7, and unless they win basically 7 straight games, they won't be in the postseason. I'm sorry, at least if they need to win 7 of the last 8 games, or they're not going to be in the postseason. I just don't see it. I don't see a team outside of 10-7 making the playoffs in the AFC. It's too top heavy. And I just don't see that happening. Not with the way the players have been playing. It is a threefold system. Mark Davis sucks. Okay? He means well, but he has no idea what he's doing. In my opinion, he should have already fired Josh McDaniels. When he didn't fire Josh McDaniels after this Colts loss, let me measure this out for you guys so everyone understands why I'm fuming. You have an excellent quarterback. You have an excellent receiver. You're not doing a good enough job of feeding these guys. You have an excellent running back, one of the top in the NFL. You have a crappy offensive line. So instead of making it easier for the offensive line and not putting them in position to take on the rush and maybe doing more max protection or, setting up different run designs to help this offensive line who is way better at run blocking than pass blocking, I just don't think Josh McDaniels knows what he's doing. So simply put, they played the Colts last week who just lost their head coach. He was fired. They hired an interim head coach who was 3-7 in high school as a head coach. Hired a 30-year-old offensive coordinator who never actually called plays before. That team beats this team that's struggling. That's how bad this is. And on top of that, here's a statistic that's starting to really get people across. By the way, we have a goal alert. Golden Knights are up 1-0 at the end of the first period, and the Golden Knights are off to a fast start. End of the first period, 1-0 lead. Keep it up, Golden Knights. Let's go. Play with that house money, baby. Roll the dice. Let's go for it. Back to the crap that we need to talk about that's rolling downhill really fast. Josh McDaniels lost to a couple coaches that have no NFL experience, period. He's got 20 years of play calling experience. He's believed to be one of the best offensive play callers in the last 20 years with 6 rings on his hands. It's pathetic. Absolutely pathetic. Patrick Graham is getting outcoached almost every single game. Granted, I feel for Patrick Graham because that defensive roster is soft. It's bad. You have Max Crosby and you really can't name anybody else. Rock Ya-Sin's done a great job. That trade's actually worked out really well. But let me put it to you like this. Chandler Jones has half a sack in 9 games. The guy you're paying $17 million a year to come in and be opposite of Max Crosby has half a sack so far this season. He's disappeared, man. We've talked about the milk carton incident. Tell everybody he's missing. It's pathetic. Okay? You have Max Crosby, and that's it. Trayvon Moehrig, who was a promising young safety in that cover 3 system under Gus Bradley. Everyone was waning about him. They were so happy that he was succeeding out of TCU. The guy has just done nothing but struggle in Patrick Graham's defense. Maybe that's an experience thing, right? But I don't think either one of those coaches, Josh McDaniels or Patrick Graham, know what the hell to do with the players on this roster. And it starts with them. It starts with Mark Davis and his stupid decision to go with Josh McDaniels to begin with. If you guys remember, I've been supporting of it because you kind of have to. You don't make those decisions, but he was never on one of my lists for hiring. You guys know that. All well and good. Go through those first 10 episodes. You'd never hear me mention Josh McDaniels one time until he was hired. And then I said, okay, let's think about this. Maybe it works out well. Egg on my face. I sound like a dumbass for supporting him and giving him a chance. They fooled us all. They bamboozled us all. They made us think that they were going to try. I think they did. They fell in their face. And thirdly, Dave Ziegler pisses me off because I don't think he's here if Josh McDaniels doesn't try to bring him. I think Dave Ziegler was the prize, and he said, let's bring in Josh. Let's work it out. No matter what, they're a group product. Dave Ziegler should stay because I think he's onto something. I like his blueprint. I see what he's trying to do with this team. Keep him. Josh McDaniels has to go. He's 2-7 with a very talented offense. Yes, Waller and Renfroe on IR, but dude, you've lost 6 games this year with 1 score. You've been outcoached. You and your staff have been outcoached 5 of the 7 losses. Clearly. I watch NFL Plus. I have the All 22. It's finally working. It's finally been working the last few weeks, and I've been able to watch every game in the last 2 weeks. They're lost. This coaching staff is lost. The play calling's lost. Your quarterback is not bought in, and he's calling people out because you're not doing your damn job and putting people in position to be the most successful they can be. McDaniels is an issue. He needs to go. And in my opinion, Mark Davis spit in the face of everybody in Raider Nation when he decided to keep him on and give him a vote of confidence saying Rome wasn't built in a day. Dude, listen, you and your terrible 5-cent bowl cut looking like, I don't know, like Skeletor out there. Calm down, bro. You mean well, but you don't know what the hell you're doing from a football perspective. And the fact that there's only been 2 winning seasons in the 10 years that you've owned the team since, rest in peace, Al Davis passed away, the late great Al Davis passed away, says you have no idea what the hell you're doing, man, and you're grasping at straws. I will say this. Usually, when the owner has to give vote of confidence to a coach, that's a bad thing. So I'm holding on to like 10% hope that Josh McDaniels is not on this football team next year. The problem is I don't think Mark Davis knows what the hell he's doing. And Josh McDaniels, and you guys can look back at my Twitter timeline, I think he's coaching with more house money than any coach in the NFL. And hear me out on this. He loses, he gets a pat on the back from an absolutely inept football owner in Mark Davis. It's just attaboy, he's doing a fantastic job when they're 2-7 with all of this talent. Right? If he gets fired, he goes back to Bill Belichick in less than a couple weeks, calls an offense for Bill Belichick he's felt comfortable calling for 20 years, and all the wiser. He's one of the highest paid offensive coordinators in the league again. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy that Mark Davis is this blind to this situation. It's crazy that Josh McDaniels is literally going to be able to get away, take a situation that was actually really good last year, horrible franchise moments, and you had an entire team lead to victory. Your quarterback, who you have being emotional at the podium. Now, it ain't my style, right? I wouldn't have been crying on the podium, but I'll say it like this. The man has been beat up by the fan base, been beat up by other teams, has barely had any help for 9 seasons. Derek Carr is a hell of a leader. He's a hell of a quarterback. He's got a hell of an arm. He doesn't get enough credit. He's underrated. And now he's got a coaching staff that has absolutely no clue what to do with the kids they decided to bring onto the roster. If I were him, I'd be very frustrated. And it sounds like, not just from him, but another leader in Davante Adams, that other players aren't taking this shit seriously. And that's why the Raiders are 2-7. Poor ownership. Dumpster fire franchise, who even though looks amazing from a business perspective in Vegas, on the football field, it's awful. And it starts with Mark Davis. Dumpster fire coaching staff. Completely getting out-coached on a consistent basis, cannot make adjustments to save their life, and I'm getting really sick and tired of them being overly polite at the podium, saying, yeah, the fans have the right to be upset. The fans have the right to fire me. Apparently not, because Mark Davis is an idiot, and he probably made one of the stupidest comments, Rome wasn't built in a day. You had a playoff team last year, man. And instead of giving it to Rich Bisaccia or really going heavy after a Jim Harbaugh, which would have done a hell of a lot better than what Josh McDaniels is doing, you gave it to Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler. And they have led this team to 2-7. Beating only the Texans and the Broncos. 6 one-score games. That's coaching. And to end the show, because we don't have very much time left, I want to make something very clear. Derek Carr is a hell of a quarterback. If he goes to Washington, if he goes to Indianapolis next year, they're a Super Bowl contender from what I've seen. Right? Seriously, that's not a joke. Derek Carr goes to one of those two teams. Let's say Lamar Jackson's situation doesn't pan out very well. Guess what? Derek Carr could go to the Ravens and they'd still be a Super Bowl contender there too. Great defense. They have athletes. They're excellent They're excellent with draft picks. Why wouldn't you want to go play there? The number 4 would look excellent there. There's so many opportunities for Derek Carr if he doesn't want to retire and he truly wants to keep going. So many opportunities. And I'll close the show with this, and I want you guys to really think about this when I say it. These guys, in 2021, the Raiders were 7-2 in one-score games. 9 games they had one-score games, meaning they weren't that great of a football team. There's a ton of parity in the NFL, but they edged out the games they needed to, winning the last 4 games, by the way, against AFC opponents to get into the playoffs and get the number 5 seed. 7-2 in one-score games last year. Derek Carr has been the comeback king since 2014. 33 comebacks, fourth quarter comebacks for wins. And by the way, when his teams has had a one score, like more than 85% of the time does he convert it and get his team a win. This year they are 0-7 in that situation. 0-6 in that situation. Since 2014, Derek Carr has been one of the most clutch quarterbacks in all of the NFL. Even in 2018, when John Gruden took over, right? Derek Carr still had 4 comeback victories in all 4 of their wins that year. This year they're 0-6. Granted, Foster Moreau needs to catch the damn ball when he's in the end zone. No excuses, right? And those referees were absolutely blind when they didn't call that pass interference on Davante Adams at the end of the game. Horrible. But you're still putting yourselves in this position consistently. So not only is Josh McDaniels hot garbage right now, the players need to step up too and execute. You can't keep having penalties. Offensive line has sucked so bad that they're allowing almost pressures on 38% of the snaps. I want to say it's top 5 in the NFL, top 5 worst offensive pass protection offensive lines in the NFL. It's been absolutely horrible, god awful. And the fact that they've already given up 22 sacks, I think, on the season in 9 games. Pathetic, right? So let's be real about the situation. What does Derek Carr really have to work with? Yes, he has Davante Adams. Hunter Renfro's been out. Darren Waller's. They've all 3 of those guys have played 40 snaps together this year. Nothing's gotten better. If anything, Josh McDaniels and these guys made it worse. The players aren't executing. They look like they've quit on field, and that's a product of coaching. When you're 0-6 in one-score games and your team is continuing to make the crucial mistakes, holding penalties, illegal offensive linemen downfield, pass interference, defensive holdings, crap like that. Allowing an old, decrepit 40-year-old quarterback, I know Matt Ryan's not quite that old, to run for 39 yards untouched in a crucial moment in the game, that's horrible coaching. And unfortunately, I think Derek Carr is going to be the scapegoat for this team, for this regime, to save their job. In my personal opinion, I think Josh McDaniels needs to go now. Go after Sean Payton, give the Saints what they need, or reach back out to Rich Bisaccia and get it figured out. Because I'm sure the guy would take the job. He'd love to work with Derek Carr again. And this team would love to play for the guy because the last team loved him to death. And he had them in the playoffs, 4 straight win games. So much wrong with the Raiders right now. It's a dumpster fire. It's not even funny. And I don't know what else to tell you guys. Don't know what else to tell you guys. Taron Rodriguez, I feel for Derek Carr. I may not be a Raiders fan, but he deserves better. He's always deserved better, man. And he bleeds silver and black. He just wants to win. He's sick of all the BS. He's sick of the fans treating him like crap. Only a matter of time before the fans boycott going to games. Maybe the Chargers might get get a home when they play the Raiders again. Not really. I don't tell you, man. Chargers are they're 5-3. They're still in playoff contention. They could get healthy at the right time. Larry B finally chimes in. What's up, my dude? Says, fire Josh McDaniels. He needed to be fired 2-3 weeks ago, man. I don't tell you. You guys know how it is. We're always real here. If you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out. This is IE Vegas, the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio. Your direct feed for all that is sports. I'm your host, Cale Henderson. We'll see you guys next Tuesday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, here on IE Sports Radio. Love, peace, and hair grease, folks.